Why can't I just get started? The truth about ADHD, motivation, and executive dysfunction. Have you ever stared at your to-do list, knowing exactly what you need to do? Maybe it's paying a bill, answering an email, starting a school assignment, cleaning the kitchen, or making an important phone call. And instead, you scroll social media, you reorganize your desk, you clean out a junk drawer. You watch one more YouTube video. And then another. Hours go by. And the one thing you needed to do still hasn't been started. You know it's important. You want to do it. You may even feel guilty that you're not doing it. So you ask yourself, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just do it? Why is something so simple so hard? If that sounds familiar, I want you to know something before we go any further. You're not lazy, and today I hope to explain why. Hi everyone, I'm Robin Trivett, a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, and over the years I've had the privilege of working with many individuals living with ADHD. And there is one sentence I hear over and over again. Robin, I know what I need to do, I just can't get myself to start. If you've ever said those words, this video is for you. Today, we're going to talk about one of the most misunderstood parts of ADHD, executive dysfunction. It's a phrase that sounds technical, but it explains something millions of people experience every single day. By the end of this video, I hope you'll understand your brain a little better and maybe offer yourself a little more compassion. Let's start with one of the biggest myths about ADHD, that people with ADHD are lazy. Honestly, I wish we could retire that word, because what I've seen in my office is almost the exact opposite. Many people with ADHD aren't trying less. They're trying harder than everyone around them realizes. Imagine pushing a shopping cart with one wheel stuck. You can still move it, but it takes so much more effort. Now imagine everyone else around you pushing carts that roll smoothly. They look over and say, why are you so slow? Just push harder. Everyone else can do it. Eventually, you begin believing them. You start thinking, maybe I really am lazy. Maybe I'm never going to get my life together. But here's the thing. If you were lazy, you probably wouldn't feel guilty. You wouldn't lie awake at night replaying everything you didn't finish. You wouldn't feel overwhelmed at your to-do list. You wouldn't keep promising yourself, tomorrow will be different. The guilt that so many people with ADHD carry often comes from caring deeply while struggling to turn intentions into actions. Here's another misconception. People assume ADHD means someone isn't smart. Nothing could be further from the truth. Some of the brightest people I've ever worked with have ADHD. Doctors, lawyers, engineers, teachers, business owners, artists, students with incredible potential. The issue isn't intelligence, it's execution. Knowing isn't the same as doing. You can know exactly what needs to happen and still feel completely stuck. That disconnect can be incredibly frustrating because people around you only see what didn't get done. They didn't see the mental battle happening behind the scenes. So let's talk about executive dysfunction. Don't let that name intimidate you. Think of your brain like the CEO of a company. The CEO doesn't do every job. Instead, the CEO decides what's most important, what gets done first, what can wait, how to organize everything. Your brain has a system that works a lot like that. It helps you start tasks, plan ahead, stay organized, shift between activities, manage your time, control impulses, remember important information, finish what you started. These are all called executive functions. When someone has ADHD, these systems don't always work as efficiently. That doesn't mean they're broken. It means they work differently. So here's an example. Imagine staring at the bottom of a staircase. You need to get to the top. Most people take the first step, then the second, then the third. For someone with ADHD, the staircase can feel overwhelming before they even take the first step. The brain isn't saying I don't want to, it's saying where do I even begin? The feeling can be so uncomfortable that doing something completely unrelated actually feels easier. One patient once described it this way: Robin, it's like my brain put up an invisible wall between me and the task. I think that's one of the best descriptions I've ever heard, because from the outside, it looks like procrastination. From the inside, it feels like trying to push through a brick wall. You know the task isn't impossible. You know it needs to get done. You may even be thinking about it all day, but somehow starting feels impossible. And then something interesting happens. The deadline gets close. Suddenly, you spring into action. You finish in one night what you've been unable to start for 2 weeks. People say, see, you could have done it all along. But that's not what happened. Your brain finally received enough urgency to activate. We'll talk more about that later in this video because it's one of the hallmarks of ADHD. So if you've ever wondered, why can everyone else seem to do these simple things while I struggle? Please know that you're not alone. And you're certainly not the only person who's felt ashamed because of it. One of my goals as a psychiatric nurse practitioner isn't simply to diagnose ADHD. It's to help people understand what's happening inside their brain. Because understanding replaces shame with knowledge, and knowledge opens the door to finding strategies that actually work. So if ADHD isn't about laziness, and it isn't about intelligence, why does your brain have such a hard time getting started in the first place? To answer that, we need to talk about something called dopamine. And once you understand dopamine, so many of your experiences with ADHD will finally begin to make sense. So let's talk about dopamine, hyperfocus, ADHD paralysis, and why just do it doesn't work in part 2. So if ADHD isn't about laziness and it isn't about intelligence, then why does your brain seem to fight every time you try to get started? So to answer that, we have to talk about dopamine. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to give you a neuroscience lecture. I want to explain in a way that actually makes sense. One of the biggest misconceptions about ADHD is that it's an attention problem. In reality, it's often a regulation of attention problem. People with ADHD don't necessarily have too little attention. They have difficulty directing it where and when they want it. A big reason for that involves dopamine. Dopamine is one of the brain's chemical messengers. It's involved in motivation, interest, reward, and helping us get started. Think of dopamine like the brain's "let's do this" signal. When dopamine is working well, your brain says, this is important, let's begin, keep going. But in ADHD, that signal can be inconsistent. So your brain may know something is important, yet struggle to activate. It's almost like trying to start your car on a freezing morning. The engine isn't broken. It just takes more effort to get it going. And that doesn't mean you don't care. It means your brain needs a stronger signal before it says, okay, let's do this. This is another question I hear all the time. Robin, if I have ADHD, then why can I spend 6 hours playing video games, but I still can't answer one email? That's actually one of the most frustrating parts of ADHD, because from the outside, it looks like you're choosing the fun thing, but your brain isn't asking which task is most important. It's asking, which task gives me enough stimulation to activate? It's asking, which task gives me enough stimulation to activate? Things that are interesting, novel, urgent, challenging, or personally meaningful naturally produce more dopamine. So your brain locks in. On the other hand, paying bills, folding laundry, responding to emails, studying materials that you don't enjoy, those tasks may not provide enough stimulation to get your brain moving. This isn't about character. It's about how your brain processes motivation. Now here's where people get confused. They'll say, I thought people with ADHD couldn't pay attention. Actually, Many people with ADHD can pay attention extremely well, sometimes too well. It's called hyperfocus. Have you ever sat down to check one thing on your phone, then suddenly realized 3 hours have passed? Or become so absorbed in a hobby, a game, a creative project, or researching something you love that you forgot to eat lunch? That's hyperfocus. Your brain has found something that provides enough stimulation, and now it doesn't want to let go. So ADHD isn't really an inability to pay attention. It's difficulty regulating where your attention goes. Sometimes you can't get your brain to focus. Other times you can't get it to stop. Now let's talk about something that many people experience, but few people know has a name: ADHD paralysis. Imagine walking into your kitchen, the dishes need washing, the trash needs taking out, dinner needs to be made, the laundry needs folding, the dogs need walking, you need to answer emails, pay bills, return a phone call. Suddenly, your brain sees everything at the same time. And instead of choosing one task, it freezes. Not because you don't care, not because you're lazy, but because your brain is overwhelmed trying to decide, where do I even start? The result? You do nothing. Then the guilt starts. I've wasted another day. Why can't I just pick something? Everyone else seems able to do this. Sound familiar? You're not alone. Many adults with ADHD describe this exact experience. One of the most well-meaning but least helpful pieces of advice people with ADHD receive is just do it. If it were that simple, most people with ADHD would have solved the problem years ago. Imagine telling someone with a broken leg, just run. They're not refusing. They physically can't perform the task the same way. Now, ADHD is obviously different, but the principle is similar. The issue isn't knowledge. People with ADHD usually know exactly what needs to happen. The issue isn't activation. Their brain struggles to make the leap from intention to action. That's why so many people become incredibly productive once they finally get started. Getting started is often the hardest part. Once momentum builds, things become much easier. If there's one thing I hope you stop after watching this video, it's calling yourself lazy. Because labels matter, and when you tell yourself, I'm lazy, your brain starts looking for solutions. But when you understand, my brain has difficulty activating, now you can begin looking for strategies that work with your brain instead of fighting against it. Understanding ADHD doesn't remove responsibility, but it does replace shame with understanding, and that's where real change begins. So now that we understand why your brain struggles to get started, the next question becomes, what actually helps? Can medication help? Are there strategies that make everyday life easier? What about parents trying to support a child with ADHD? Let's talk about practical tools that can help you stop fighting your brain and start working with it. So now we understand something really important. ADHD isn't a lack of intelligence. It isn't laziness. It isn't a lack of willpower. So the obvious question becomes, what can I do about it? And the good news is there isn't one answer. There are many. Because every day, ADHD brain is a little different. One of the first things I tell my patient is, stop trying to use someone else's brain. What works beautifully for your spouse, your coworker, or your best friend may not work for you, and that's okay. Your goal isn't to become someone else. Your goal is to understand how your brain works. Remember, getting started is often the hardest part. So don't ask yourself, can I finish this? Ask yourself, can I work on this for 5 minutes? That's it. Because once your brain begins, momentum often takes over. I can't tell you how many patients have said, Robin, I only planned to do 5 minutes and I ended up finishing the whole thing. Starting creates momentum. Momentum creates motivation, not the other way around. ADHD brains make thousands of decisions every day, sometimes too many. If you have to decide where to start, what to wear, which email to answer first, where to begin, Your brain becomes exhausted before you've even started. So remove decisions whenever you can. Lay your clothes out the night before. Keep your medications in the same place. Use reoccurring grocery lists. Have one place for your keys. Simplify. Every decision that you remove leaves more energy for the things that really matter. Now here's a strategy many people have never heard of. It's called body doubling. Sometimes simply having another person nearby can make it dramatically easier to begin. They're not helping you. They're not reminding you. They're simply present. That person can be a spouse, a friend, a coworker, a study partner, even someone working quietly beside you on a video call. For reasons that we don't completely understand, many people with ADHD find it much easier to start and stay with a task when someone else is present. If you've never tried it, it may surprise you. As a mental health psychiatric nurse practitioner, I also want to talk briefly about medication. Medication can be life-changing for many people, but I always tell my patients, medication don't create skills. It creates opportunities. Think of medication like putting on a pair of glasses. The glasses help you see, but they don't read the book for you. Medication may help improve attention, reduce impulsivity, and make it easier to get started, but you'll still benefit from routines, planning, healthy sleep, exercise, therapy, and learning strategies that fit your brain. Medication isn't failure. It's one tool, just like the glasses, just like insulin, just like an inhaler. Sometimes it's exactly the tool someone needs. So if you're watching this because your child has ADHD, I want to say something directly to you. Your child is probably trying harder than you realize. Please don't assume that because something looks easy, it feels easy to them. When a child repeatedly hears, "You're lazy, you're not trying, why can't you be more like your brother?" those words become their inner voice. Instead, be curious. Ask, what's making this hard? Teach skills. Celebrate effort. Notice progress. Children grow best when they feel understood, not shamed. So if ADHD is affecting your job, your grades, your relationships, your confidence, or your mental health, please don't convince yourself that you simply need to try harder. Sometimes trying harder isn't the answer. Getting the right help is. Talk with your primary care provider, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, or another clinician that's experienced in evaluating ADHD. Whether your treatment includes coaching, therapy, medication, or all three, you deserve support. I'd like to leave you with one final thought. If you have spent years believing I'm lazy, I hope today you begin asking a different question. Instead of asking, what's wrong with me, ask, what does my brain need to succeed? Those are very different questions. One creates shame, the other creates hope. And hope changes people. If you've ever sat in your car for 20 minutes because you couldn't make yourself walk into the grocery store, if you've ever watched everyone else finish an assignment while you were still trying to get started, if you've ever been called lazy when you were trying harder than anyone knew, I want you to hear this. I see you. You're not alone. You're not lazy. You're not broken. Your brain simply works differently. And when you understand how your brain works, you can stop fighting it. You can stop fighting it and start building a life around its strength instead of its struggles. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. If this video has helped you to better understand ADHD, I'd love for you to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who may need to hear this message. And if there's other mental health topics you'd like me to cover, please let me know in the comments below. Until next time, be kind to your mind.